The silence between them started with silence, not the kind that fills a quiet room, not the kind that lingers after laughter fades. This silence had weight, it had a pulse, and Anna felt it the moment she walked into the rehearsal room. The studio was dimly lit, rain tapping softly against the tall windows. A half-finished piano melody played from a corner speaker, low and slow, like a heart trying to remember how to beat. People moved around with scripts in hand, costume racks wheeled past, but all Anna saw was him. Keanu sat on the edge of a wooden stage platform alone. No phone, no coffee, no distractions. Just stillness. His eyes were focused on nothing and everything at once. And somehow, Anna couldn't look away. She hadn't meant to arrive early. Her driver took a faster route. Maybe fate had decided she needed to see this before anyone else did. She stood near the doorway, watching. Keanu didn't see her. Or maybe he did. Maybe he always knew more than he let on. Maybe silence was how he spoke. Anna had worked with actors who filled rooms with noise, with laughter, with ego. But this, this was something else. She felt it like a string tied to her chest, pulled gently toward him, and for a second, she forgot to breathe. "You okay?" a stagehand asked, startling her. Anna blinked, smiled politely, nodded. But when she turned back, Keanu was already standing. He didn't glance her way, didn't say a word. Just picked up a small journal from the floor, tucked it into his coat, and walked quietly past her. The scent of rain and wood and something like nostalgia trailing behind him, and that was their beginning. They were cast together in a quiet, emotional drama. Not a blockbuster, no explosions, just people, raw broken people learning to be human again. Anna was nervous, because of the script, not because of the pressure, because she was afraid she wouldn't feel enough. She had spent years learning how to be strong, how to hide her cracks behind smiles and headlines, how to laugh when she wanted to scream. But this role, this story, it demanded honesty, and honesty hurt. During their first table read, she expected Keanu to dominate the room. His name, after all, carried weight. But he sat quietly, his hands folded, eyes lowered as everyone read their lines. And when it was his turn, he spoke. Like he wasn't acting at all. His voice didn't rise or fall. It didn't perform. It simply existed. And that made it real. And a single quote's of voice trembled. Not on purpose, not as part of the scene. Her hands felt cold. She stumbled through a line, then paused, biting her lip. Everyone looked at her. The director opened his mouth to guide her, but Keanu raised his hand gently, and silence fell again. He turned to her, no judgment in his eyes, just presence. "Take your time," he said softly. "We're here. No rush." Those words stayed with her, not because of how he said them, but because he meant them. She felt it in her chest. And that was the second string tied. One afternoon, Anna sat outside the studio during lunch, legs tucked up on a bench, staring at her phone. There was a message from her mother. It was short. Something about not forgetting where she came from. Something about not letting the lights blind her. It stung more than it should have. Maybe because it was true, she felt tears coming and pressed, her palm over her eyes. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Not now. She didn't hear him approach. Keanu sat beside her without a word. Didn't ask what was wrong. Didn't offer comfort. He simply placed a small folded piece of paper on the bench between them. Then, as quietly as he came, he stood and walked away. Anna looked down. It was a torn page from his journal. The handwriting was neat, slanted slightly. "Sometimes the weight you carry isn't yours to hold forever. Let it down. Not because you're weak, but because you're allowed to rest." That was the moment Anna understood. Keanu didn't speak much, but when he did, he said everything. Rehearsals grew more intense. Director pushed them hard. Scenes blurred with emotion. They were meant to portray a man and a woman who had lost everything, and yet chose to stay. Anna found herself bringing her real pain into the performance. Memories she had buried. Voices from the past. Mistakes she hadn't forgiven herself for. It bled into her scenes. Sometimes too much. One evening, after a particularly emotional rehearsal, she rushed to the dressing room and shut the door. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard, shaking. Tears came, hot and silent. She didn't hear the knock, but the door creaked open a few inches, and a hand reached in, holding a mug. Chamomile tea. No voice. No explanation. She took it. The door closed again. She sipped the tea and smiled. He had seen her again, even in her silence. Days passed. They didn't text, didn't call. But every time Anna walked into the room, she knew where he was. Even before she looked, she felt his presence like a soft drumbeat in the background. They spoke more on screen than off. But each time they did, there was no pretending. It wasn't acting, not anymore. One night, after a wrap-up scene, the director clapped and called it a day. People clapped too. Laughter. Cheers. Someone brought out a small cake. The atmosphere changed, but Anna stood still. Something inside her ached. Keanu walked past the others and came to her. "You okay?" he asked gently. Anna nodded, but her voice cracked. "I don't know why this role is doing this to me. It's just a movie, right?" He looked at her for a long time, then shook his head. "No, it's not. Not to you." And that was when the third string tied. Late that evening, she found him alone again. Same spot. Sitting on the edge of the stage. Same silence. This time, she sat beside him. "You ever been so tired you forget who you're pretending to be?" she asked. He didn't answer at first. Then he whispered, "Yeah, that's what I know. I need to be around people who remember for me." They sat there, no more words between them. Just shared breath, shared stillness. The rain returned, brushing the windows like a lullaby. Anna felt something inside her ease, not that had been there for years, maybe longer. And in that moment, she realized something strange and beautiful. Keanu didn't need to speak for her to hear him, and maybe, just maybe, she didn't need to speak either. Maybe being understood was something simpler than words. Maybe it was about being seen. The day the silence Keith's morning came cold and gray. The studio lot was still waking up, and the sky above Los Angeles looked like it hadn't made up its mind, yet clouds hovered like thoughts waiting to fall. Anna arrived early again. Not by accident this time. She needed the quiet before the noise. She walked in holding her script, but wasn't reading it. Her mind was too full. Something had shifted since that evening with Keanu on the stage. Something inside her had cracked open, not in a way that hurt, but in a way that made room. Today's scene was heavy. It was the turning point in the story where her character had to finally admit she wasn't okay. The words were raw, written like a confession, the kind that stuck in your throat. The director warned everyone this would be an intense shoot. He didn't want acting. He wanted truth. Anna knew truth would cost her. Keanu was already there when she walked in, same seat on the edge of the stage, like he had carved a quiet space just for her to find. He looked up as she entered, gave her a soft nod. No words, just recognition. It was enough. She walked toward him, not sure if she'd say anything. Okay. But before she could speak, he did something unexpected. He pulled out his journal, flipped through the pages, and tore one out. "Here," he said, handing it to her. She hesitated, took it, unfolded the paper slowly. "It's not weakness to feel everything. It's strength to survive it." Anna looked at him, throat tight. "Do you write these for yourself? Or for people like me?" Keanu gave a half smile. "Sometimes I don't know who they're for. I just write them when I can't speak." That answer stayed with her. As the cameras rolled, the room felt different. Even the crew was quieter. The lighting had shifted, soft shadows, golden hues from a low-angle light, mimicking late afternoon. Anna sat across from Keanu in the scene, trembling hands on her lap, her face turned slightly away. The script called for tears, for a breakdown, but she didn't need to force it. When the director called action, it all came rushing up. Memories she thought she had buried. Childhood fear. Nights spent wondering if she mattered. People who used her name but never really saw her. The long climb to this moment. Her voice cracked. I don't know who I am when the cameras turn off, she whispered. I'm scared I'll disappear. Keanu's reply wasn't loud. It wasn't theatrical. It was ... still. Then let me see you now, before the lights go. Before the noise starts again, Anna broke. Shh. Not just as an actress, as a person. Her body shook, tears flowed. The pain was real. It wasn't the character speaking anymore. It was her. And Keanu, he never looked away. He didn't try to stop her, didn't rush in to fix it. Just sat there, eyes open, heart open, holding space. The director didn't yell cut. He didn't have to. When the scene ended, the entire set stayed silent. No clapping, no noise. Just the echo of something sacred. Anna stood slowly, her breath uneven. She turned away, embarrassed, needing space. But then she felt a coat drape. Gently over her shoulders, Keanu had followed. Quietly, respectfully. Not to be a hero, just to say I see you without saying it. Anna turned to him, tears still on her cheeks. You didn't have to, I know, he said gently. But I wanted to. Later that night, after everyone had gone, Anna sat outside the studio, wrapped in his coat. It was soft, worn, like it had been through stories of its own. Keanu came out quietly, carrying 2 cups of tea. He sat beside her and handed her one. They didn't speak for a while. The city around them buzzed, distant and faint. You okay? He finally asked. Anna stared into her cup. I don't know. I think I'm still in the scene. He nodded slowly. Sometimes the scene is realer than life. She looked at him, her voice small. Why do you understand all this? Why do you carry so much ... and still stay soft? Keanu didn't answer right away. Then he said, because someone once did the same for me. Back when I was breaking, someone stayed silent and didn't leave. Anna turned her eyes away, swallowing the lump in her throat. Thank you, she whispered. You don't owe me thanks, he replied. We're just 2 people trying to be honest in a world that forgets how. The next morning, Anna arrived to find a gift waiting in her dressing room, small, wrapped in simple paper. Inside was a tiny music box, hand-cranked. When she turned the lever, it played a soft melody, broken, off-key, but beautiful. A note was tucked inside. You don't need to be perfect to be heard. Your song matters exactly as it is. It wasn't signed, but she knew who it was from. That day on set, things were different. People smiled more. Tension faded. It was like something had shifted in the energy around them, like they were all moving through something together. Even if no one said it out loud, Anna and Keanu sat together at lunch, trading quiet jokes. She teased him about his handwriting. He pretended to be offended. I'm serious, she said, laughing. You write like a poet who lost his glasses. He raised an eyebrow. And you act like someone who finally stopped pretending. Because he was right. I don't know who I am outside of this movie, she admitted. He touched his tea mug, thoughtful. Maybe you're finally starting to find out. As filming went on, people began to notice. Not just the chemistry on screen, but something deeper. Something real. Something in the way Anna smiled when he entered the room. The way he noticed when she was tired. The way they didn't need to speak to understand. No one asked questions. Some truths don't need to be explained. That evening, as they wrapped another emotional scene, Anna caught herself staring at Keanu, not with confusion, not with fear, but with peace. He caught her gaze and gave the smallest nod. No words. And yet she heard everything. The things left unspoken. It was raining again, not heavy rain. It's just a soft, steady mist that blurred the world and made the city feel like a memory. Anna stood by the studio window, her forehead resting lightly against the cool glass. Inside, people moved, lights flickered, cameras waited. But outside was quiet, soft, healing. The movie was almost done. Only a few scenes left, and Anna felt like something inside her was slipping through her fingers. Not fear, not sadness, just something. Unfinished. It wasn't just the film that changed her. It was Keanu. They hadn't spoken about it. Not directly. There was no declaration. No late-night confession. But there were looks. Small ones. Quiet ones. Moments where time slowed and the world fell away. Anna would find herself watching the way he listened. How he made space for people without taking it for himself. How he sat in a room like a question mark no one could answer, but everyone felt. And she knew whatever this was, it mattered. That day's scene was short but delicate. It was the goodbye scene. Her character had to walk away. No explanation. No answers, just eyes filled with love and pain in the choice to let go. Anna read the script the night before. Something inside her broke. Because she knew what it was like to love someone and not say it. To feel everything but keep it locked inside. The next morning, she didn't say much during makeup. Just nodded. Smiled politely. But her chest was tight. Her hands cold, Keanu noticed. He always did. He didn't ask her if she was okay. He just handed her a warm pack for her hands and nodded toward the stage. "When you're ready," he said softly. The set was quiet. Minimal lighting. One chair, one window, one door. Simplicity that allowed emotion to breathe, as the director called action. Anna stepped into the scene. She stood facing him. He didn't speak. Not in the script. Not in real life. He just looked at her, and that was the hardest part. Because everything she'd ever wanted to cite, to anyone who ever mattered, rose up in her throat all at once. "I don't know how to leave you," she said, voice trembling. Keanu stayed silent, but his eyes shone. Anna took a step closer. "You never said anything? Never asked me to stay? Never told me I mattered?" A pause. A heartbeat. "But you showed me," she whispered. "Every day. Every moment. You made me believe it without saying a word." She reached up, placed her hand gently on his chest. "I heard you, even in your silence."
Ow.
And then, slowly, she turned and walked away. "Cut," the director called. Voice thick with emotion. No one moved. Crew members wiped their eyes. The lighting tech turned away, pretending to adjust something. The room had shifted again, like it had been blessed by something. Too fragile to name, Anna walked off the set and into the hallway, her body still humming, and then Keanu followed. He didn't say a word. He just walked beside her until they reached the back steps. Where the rain was still falling softly, they sat side by side, sharing silence like an old song. After a long moment, Anna broke it. "Have you ever regretted not saying something?" she asked. Keanu nodded slowly. "Too many times." "Me too," she said. "But not this time." He looked at her, his eyes calm but deep. "What do you mean?" She took a shaky breath. "I don't know what this is between us, or what it's supposed to be. But I know. It's real, and I'm not walking away without saying it." He didn't interrupt. Didn't rush her, so she continued. "You made me feel safe in a world that always asked me to be strong. You let me be soft, broken, confused, and you never judged me for it. You just ... stayed." She smiled through wet lashes. "So thank you. For the words you never said, and the ones you did. For all of it." He reached into his coat pocket slowly and handed her a folded piece of paper. "This was for you. Before the last scene," he said. "But I didn't want to interrupt your process." Anna opened the paper. "Not all love is loud. Some of it waits. Some of it whispers. Some of it simply stays in, never walks away." Her lips trembled. She leaned her head gently on his shoulder. "You're not walking away either, are you?" she asked softly. "No," he said. "I'm here." That night, they didn't go home. They stayed. Talked not about work. Fame. Not about roles or directors or the next big thing. They talked about life, about loss, about the quiet ache of wanting to be seen without being touched. Anna told him stories she'd never told anyone about how lonely it felt to be admired, but not known. How exhausting it was to smile for photos when she couldn't smile for herself. Keanu listened, and when she paused, I'm sure if she had said too much, he reached over, gently placed his hand over hers. Emma nodded. No words, but she heard them anyway. "You are not alone." The following day, filmed their final scene. A simple reunion? No. Dialogue, just two people standing at a distance. The script said their eyes would meet. Then the camera would cut, the ending left open. But as the scene began, something happened. Keanu took a step forward. Unscripted Anna stepped forward. Two, they met in the center. And for the first time on camera, he took her hand. No kiss. No hug. Just two hands. Fingers wrapped gently, holding stillness between them. The director didn't yell cut. Didn't need to. They had already said everything. After the shoot ended, people celebrated, crew hugged, lights dimmed, laughter echoed. But Anna and Keanu found each other in the corner. She smiled, a little shy now. So ... What happens now? He looked at her, herky, steady. Whatever you want, he said. I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time in a long time, Anna believed it. When the world came rushing back, the movie was done, the cameras packed away, the lights dimmed. The makeup trailers rolled out like ghosts of a story that had already been told. Anna stood in the now empty studio, looking at the spot where they'd filmed the final scene. Her boots echoed against the hollow floor. Dust swirled in the air, golden under the soft light through the high windows. This place had changed her not because of the role, but because of him. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the silence settle over her. It felt different now. It wasn't lonely. It was full. Full of everything they hadn't said but had somehow still shared. And then her phone buzzed. It was her agent. Anna, the movie's already getting buzz, she said breathlessly. The footage leaked from the final scene. The way you two look at each other, it's everywhere. People are obsessed. Anna's heart sank slightly. It wasn't supposed to leak. I know, but honestly, this could be huge. There's talk of awards, interviews, red carpets. And everyone's asking the same question. ... double quotes. Anna didn't need to hear it. She already knew. Are you and Keanu together? The world had come rushing. Back, the quiet they'd built together was cracking. That night, Anna sat in her living room, lights off, phone glowing in her lap. She scrolled through headlines, fan theories, tweets, comments. Look at the way she looks at him. They have to be in love. No one acts that well. I want what they have. She should have felt flattered, but instead she felt exposed. This wasn't a story they had shared with the world. This was something sacred, something quiet. And now it had been dragged into the light. She didn't know what to say. So she didn't. Keanu texted her that evening. Can I come over? She didn't answer right away. It's not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know how to explain what she was feeling. The doorbell rang anyway. He stood there, rain on his jacket, quiet as ever. Anna stepped aside. He came in, didn't speak, just placed a small paper bag on the kitchen counter. Inside, dash chamomile tea and 2 old records. Figured you needed something simple, he said softly. Anna nodded.
Her throat tight.
Thank you. They sat on the couch. No TV, no distractions. Finally she spoke. They know. Keanu nodded. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. I know. She turned to him, eyes glistening. Do we have to talk about it? He shook his head gently. Only if you want to. A long pause. What if they ruin it? She whispered. Keanu looked at her. Really looked. They can't ruin something they didn't create, he said. This ... us wasn't made for. Then Anna felt the tears come. Soft. Silent. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Then promise me something. She whispered. Anything. Don't let the noise change what we had in the quiet. Keanu didn't reply with words. He just pulled her closer, and in that silence, she heard his promise. Days passed, the press storm grew. Interview requests poured in. Anna's team wanted her to say something, anything, but she stayed quiet. Until one morning, her publicist called with urgency. You need to see this, she said. A clip. From a talk show, the host had asked Keanu, what's your connection with Anna? And Keanu had smiled, paused, then said, Sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones that don't need words. We shared something honest, something kind. And that's enough for me. No denial, no performance, just truth. Anna closed her eyes, breathed. He hadn't run, hadn't hidden. He had protected what they built without ever putting it on display. Later, that evening, Anna sent him a message. "Can we go somewhere quiet?" "Ah!" He replied, already packed. They drove up the coast in silence. Wind in their hair, ocean beside them, no paparazzi, no red carpets. Just stars and sky and the steady hum of the road. They found a small cabin. Old, creaky floors. Wildflowers outside the porch. And inside, dash peace. No scripts, no questions. Just to people learning how to be real in a world that demanded performance. They stayed for 3 days. Cooked simple meals, read books aloud, played old records, and talked only when they wanted to. Anna opened up in pieces about her childhood. The pressure, the fear of never being enough. How she sometimes still felt like a stranger in her own skin. Keanu listened. Always he shared too. Stories he hadn't told anyone. Pain he had carried. Grief that had changed him. They didn't try to fix each other. They just made space for healing. On the final night, they sat on the porch, wrapped in a shared blanket. The stars above were bright, uncaring, beautiful. Anna turned to him, voice barely above a whisper. "Can I ask you something real?" He nodded. "Did you fall for me during the movie? ... or after?" Keanu looked at her for a long time. "Neither," he said. She blinked, confused. "Then when?" His voice was soft. "Sure. The day you didn't say anything, but I knew you. Heard me." Anna swallowed, and then she smiled. She reached for his hand. Held it, no words. Because finally, there was no need. Between the noise and the truth, he came back changed. Not different in the way people expect when a couple returns from a secret getaway. No dramatic photos, no whispered scandals, just stillness, quiet eyes, shared calm. Anna stepped into her apartment, placed her bag gently on the floor, and looked around like it wasn't hers anymore. Something about the cabin, the stars, the silence, they had carved out a piece of her that wouldn't quite fit back into her old life. Keanu walked her up, hands in his coat pockets. He stood in the doorway a moment longer than necessary. They didn't kiss. They didn't plan the next moment. They just stood. Anna leaned forward and whispered, "Thank you." He smiled, small and real. "For what?" "For not making me talk when all I wanted was to feel." He nodded. "That's the only kind of thank you I ever wanted." But peace doesn't stay long when you're famous, especially not the kind of peace built in secret. The next morning, Anna woke to her phone buzzing nonstop. Her face was everywhere. A blurry photo of her and Keanu on the beach near the cabin had made it to the tabloids. The headline screamed, "Secret getaway? Anna and Keanu spotted off grid romance confirmed?" It didn't bother her at first. She'd seen worse, lived through worse, but the messages started rolling in. Some supportive, others cruel. People trying to define something they hadn't lived. She's using him for attention. He deserves someone real. They don't even look like a real couple. Just another Hollywood phase. The last one hit hard. Because this wasn't a phase. Keanu called her that afternoon, his voice calm as always. "You okay?" he asked. Anna hesitated. "I thought I was. But it's like, we built this beautiful thing in quiet, and now they're throwing it under bright lights, trying to break it." He listened. Waited. "We don't owe them anything," he said softly. "Not a story. Not a picture. Not a performance." Anna sat on her couch, tears pooling. But what if the noise gets louder? Keanu's voice didn't waver. "Then we stay quiet together." Later that week, they were scheduled for a press event. The movie had been selected for a major film festival. Anna didn't want to go. She didn't want to smile for cameras. Strangers whispered about things they didn't understand. But she had to, so she dressed up, put on the makeup, stood tall. And when she stepped out of the car, The flashbulbs exploded like a war of attention. Anna, over here, are you and Keanu dating? Is this a publicity stunt? She froze, until she felt a hand reach for hers. Steady, familiar Keanu. He didn't say a word, just looked at her. Eyes calm, and held her hand as they walked into the noise together. The moment was captured in hundreds of photos, but none of them showed what she heard in her heart. You're not alone. Inside, the press conference began. Questions about the film, about the chemistry, about them. Anna held her breath, until one reporter stood and asked, Keanu, what do you think people are getting wrong about your relationship with Anna? He leaned forward, paused, then spoke. I think people are trying to name something that doesn't need a label. The room hushed. We shared something honest, real, and whether it's friendship, love, or something in between, it's ours, and that's enough. Anna looked at him, her heart thundered, not because of what he said, but because of everything he didn't. After the event, they snuck out the back. No limos, no handlers, just them, walking along a quiet street. Hands brushing, but not holding until Anna finally slipped hers into his. She stopped near a streetlight, looked up at him. When you said something in between. What did you mean? Keanu studied her. The light above them flickered, casting soft gold across her face. I meant, he said gently, that we don't have to explain it. It's enough that it's real. She stepped closer. But I want to explain it, not to them, to you. Waited. Anna took a breath. I'm scared, she admitted, because I've never had something like this. Something that doesn't ask me to pretend. He nodded. Double quotes. Same. I think I love you, she whispered, tears in her eyes. But not the kind from the movies. It's not the kind with roses and big speeches. Just the quiet kind. The kind that stays. Keanu smiled. I know, he whispered back. And I love you like that too. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. In the stillness between their hearts. The words echoed without sound, and they both heard everything. The silence that odd stays that followed weren't loud. They were soft, slow. Ordinary Anna stopped measuring time by calendar events and started counting it by shared breakfasts, quiet walks, and the way Keanu gently handed her a blanket. When she fell asleep reading, there were no dramatic turning points, no grand declarations, only consistency, presence, and peace. For the first time in her life, Anna wasn't performing. She was just being in Keanu. He never tried to define what they had. He just kept showing up again and again. But the world didn't rest. The movie was released to critical acclaim. It shattered expectations. Critics called it a masterpiece of restraint, a performance. That felt like eavesdropping on two real souls. They don't act, they just are. Interview requests piled up, award nominations came, and with them questions. How did you two build such deep chemistry? Are you in love? Is this real, or a brilliant illusion? Anna and Keanu smiled, answered what they could, deflected what they couldn't, but they kept one thing sacred, the silence that had built everything. When the big night came, award ceremony, Anna stood in front of the mirror in a simple black dress. Unsure of how to feel? It wasn't about winning. It wasn't even about the recognition. It was about the world trying to wrap its hands around something that was never meant to be held. By anyone but them, Keanu knocked on the door gently. When she opened it, he just smiled. Not because of how she looked, but because she was real. Ready? He asked. Anna nodded. As long as you're with me, always, he whispered. They arrived hand dash and dash hand. The cameras flashed. The crowd roared. But it all felt far away, because in that moment, standing beside him, she remembered something. He wrote in his journal, a page he never gave her but once read aloud during rehearsal when no one else was listening. If the whole world is watching but you only see one person hold on to that, that's the only truth that matters. They didn't win the award that night, but it didn't matter. When they returned to her apartment, they changed into soft clothes, ate noodles on the floor, and watched an old black and white movie with the volume low. Anna rested her head on his shoulder. Did you ever think we'd end up like this? she asked. Keanu thought for a moment. Not exactly like this, he said. But I always hoped I'd find someone who could hear me without needing me to explain. Anna smiled. And I always hoped someone would finally listen when I stopped pretending. He leaned his head gently against hers. We found that, he said. We made it stay. Months passed. The world moved on. Other stories took the headlines, but they stayed. Quiet, constant. One morning, while they were walking through a park just before sunrise, Keanu stopped. The city behind them was still asleep. The sky was turning pale blue, and the only sound was the birds beginning to wake. He turned to her, eyes soft. Can I tell you something? He said. Anna blinked. Surprised, he rarely started the conversation. Yes, she whispered. He took her hands. I used to think silence meant being alone, he said slowly. But you showed me that silence can be full of meaning, full of love. Anna's eyes shimmered. He continued. So this Susit doesn't need anything else. No labels, no announcements. Just more mornings like this, more walks, more quiet. She nodded, lips trembling with emotion. I want all of that, forever. Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring, not flashy, not expensive. Simple silver with a soft carved line around the edge. Not a proposal, he said gently. Just a promise. Anna smiled as tears slipped down her cheeks. Then let me make the same. She took his hand. I'll keep listening even when there are no words left. They didn't rush. They didn't move in right away. They didn't turn into something for the cameras. They just kept building their quiet world. A world where pain was held gently, where love didn't need applause, where kindness spoke louder than headlines, and where silence wasn't empty anymore. Years later, in a rare interview, someone asked Anna what love meant to her now. She smiled quietly, hands folded in her lap. It means finding someone who hears you even when you say, nothing at all, she said. Someone who stays, not to fix you, but just to be there when you can't fix yourself. Someone who chooses you, not loudly but fully. She paused. And sometimes it means sitting in silence.
How do you like?
And realizing you've never felt more understood.